So welcome everybody to our free webinar, A Taste of Conscious Aging. My name is Kirsten Sjoquist. I'm the Director of Experience at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, IONS, and I have the pleasure of being your host today. I'm joined by Dominic Olivo, who will be assisting in all things technical. So welcome everybody. Today's webinar is entitled A Taste of Conscious Aging. And in this experiential 75 minutes, we are going to explore how we can reframe aging. Without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our presenters today. Marc Blesoff and Evalina Everidge are both IONS certified conscious aging facilitators who offer the conscious aging workshops in their own communities. Marc in Oak Park, Illinois, and Evalina in Asheville, North Carolina. They are deeply passionate about the topic of conscious aging, and we are so excited to have an opportunity to share their gifts with you today. So thank you, Marc and Evalina, for being with us today, and please take it away.
Thank you, Kirsten, so much. And hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for participating in A Taste of Conscious Aging today. Today, as in our 6-week conscious aging session, we'll be co-creating community. One of the highlights of what I call the first wave of a new movement towards having a conversation about aging. So in that interest, we will be having opportunities to hear from you and small group breakouts. But to start the conversation, I'd like to share how I became a conscious aging facilitator, what brought me to that. And it began, I believe, with my mother, a beautiful, strong, courageous, and loving person. She nonetheless had a deep fear and aversion to aging and to death. And she never came to a sense of acceptance about it. So as a result, she suffered from fear and isolation. I felt such pain for her and knew that that was not the scenario I wanted for myself. The other profound influence was the experiences I had for many years as a hospice nurse, supporting people who wish to stay in their home and helping them to live and die with as much quality as possible. I saw the effects on them and their families and their loved ones of fear and denial and an unwillingness to talk honestly about these things. I heard regrets that people expressed, that they hadn't appreciated the preciousness of life, that they would set different priorities, they would love more or forgive more. And I saw them approach the end of life with great acceptance and peace. I came to understand that the potential for healing was present to the last. This made me realize that we didn't have to wait till the end of our lives to begin to invite some of these qualities into our lives and to decide what really mattered. So about this time, I discovered the IONS Conscious Aging program, and I found it a beautiful framework to explore all these things, and that it could lead to an experience of aging that had so much potential. I wanted to share that with as many people as possible, so that's why I'm here today. Marc, what brought you to conscious aging?
Melting my armor. First of all, thanks to IONS, Kirsten and Dominic and Evalina and everybody who's here. So I was a criminal defense attorney for over 30 years. And then I stopped. I phased it out. And one thing about these workshops, the conscious aging workshops, and just basically conscious aging, is it's really helping me to melt the armor that I built up doing what I did for all those years. And I'm feeling so alive because of this. And I'm, you know, I'm just passionate and living more fully. And so I get a gift every time I facilitate these workshops. And people are just so hungry to talk about this, all these elephants in the room. So we're gonna be doing that. And being so alive, there's Evalina and I are part of a group called, a tribe called Aging. the slogan for A Tribe Called Aging is life more wonderful, not just less horrible. And these workshops and facilitating and connecting with you people are helping me live that life more wonderful, not just less horrible. So thank you, of Evalina.
Thank you, Marc. So let's move into doing some reframing. Conscious aging is an ongoing process of determining what is true and meaningful for ourselves and supporting that with our thoughts, words, choices, and actions. But to do that, we must first sort through all the things we've absorbed about aging, consciously and subconsciously. Listen, if we're told something often enough and long enough, we believe it. And we're operating from assumptions that we've absorbed from our society all our lives that limit us without even realizing it. Let's look at some of the common phrases and beliefs that we're constantly subject to. Dominic, could you bring up that screenshot for me? And I'm not seeing the whole thing on the screen. I'm not able to read the beginning of the sentences on the left. Dominic?
So I think your screen may not be open completely, Evalina. I am seeing the full screen. Can you do a scroll or adjust your Zoom window?
Well, I am trying to do that. I'm not in full screen. It doesn't seem to matter if I'm in full screen or not.
Go ahead and resize your Zoom window a little bit and let's see if that helps.
Okay, resizing my Zoom window. Fit to window. Ah, yes, thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, technological whizzes. Okay.
You're welcome.
So obviously everybody can see this as well pretty clearly. So let's look at this column here, common phrases that we hear every day. You look good for your age. You don't look your age. Wow, you don't look 65, you look fabulous. She's well preserved for her age. He's 79 years young. Or how about this? Well, hello there, young lady. She's still active, dances, works, is sexually active, and at her age. Marc, you're as sharp as a tack, feisty and spry. He's having a senior moment. Well, what do you expect at your age? I'm not old. I'm young at heart. I'm too old to change. I'm too old to learn something new. This is just how I am. And how about the ending to this sentence? I lie about my age because. We hear those things a lot from other people's mouths, from media, many different ways. How many times have we said these exact same things? Are these phrases an active part of our vocabulary? Or how about these? What are the implications of these? Age appropriate. What does that even mean? Old lady clothes. Anti-aging, anti-wrinkles, reverse the ravages of time. Over the hill, forever young. Or how about infantilizing old people? They're so adorable, they're precious. Oh, sweetie, honey. You know, wow. These are like woven into the fabric of our everyday vocabulary and culture. Language matters. So when we catch ourselves saying these things and really examining what they mean, we're all aging at any age, right? If you're alive, you're aging. That's just a natural part of the human experience. But we tend to reserve that term for later in life. And there's not any agreement on when old age begins. You know, it could be 50, 60, 65. There's no consensus. All the way to 100 is considered one homogeneous category, which of course is ridiculous. We're as diverse as there are people. But one thing we have in common, and this is something Marc often says, and even put on a t-shirt, we survived adulthood. So we're actually kind of in a whole different category. Many of us, when we hear the word old, have the stereotypical image of stooped, wrinkled, maybe using a walker, a wheelchair, confused and forgetful. Well, and we think, well, that's not me, right? And so we think, therefore, I'm not really old. I'm going to identify myself as youthful because that doesn't fit me. Isn't what we're really saying when we say we feel or think young is that we don't conform to the stereotype of old? And neither do many people in their 80s and 90s and beyond. And even if they are physically debilitated, we can't know about that person's inner life, their creative and spiritual potential. All we see is the outer, which is very limiting for ourselves and for others. I propose that the more we claim and model our age proudly, this is what 60 looks like, this is what 70 or 80 or beyond looks like, the more we're able to challenge those stereotypes. You know, I used to feel so flattered when someone would say, oh, you look young for your age, or you don't look your age. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, how can I not look my age? This is my age, you know? And so the age that we look is just as diverse as there are people. What if instead of equating looking well with looking young, we proudly owned our age and showed people this is the face of age, and this, and this, and this. This is how we begin to change those stereotypes of old rather than perpetuating them. That is conscious aging. Marc?
Thanks, Evalina. I had 2 quick points I wanted to touch on. An idea I've been developing and talking with IONS about, since everyone here knows IONS and Noetics. So I think that aging is inherently noetic. And I've got a blog currently on IONS website. Please check it out. Let me know what you think. So as we age, our rhythms shift, and we can become better acquainted with our intuition. In my blog, I touch upon the theory of gerotranscendence. Gero, G-E-R-O, gerotranscendence. It was developed by Swedish gerontologist Lars Torenstam in the 1980s. He started, I think. But these are all ideas that sort of corroborate what most of us are already feeling and what we already know. And as we articulate conscious aging, whether amongst friends or in the workshops, this knowledge can, like the slogan, can head us towards more wonderful and not just less horrible. And this thing about less horrible, I think many of us view aging as just trying to make the best of a bad situation. And, you know, that might not be at the surface, but for many of us underneath, this is really, this is what we feel, this is what we think. And we've been acculturated through our lives for this point of view. Old is bad is kind of where our culture points us, and it's pervasive and very deep. We will be grappling with this making the best of a bad situation attitude in our workshops with very practical handles to hold on to grasp this stuff. So those were just 2 points I wanted to just toss out there for now. And Evalina is going to lead us into a small group breakdown, right?
Yeah. We're going to be talking a lot more about the content of the Conscious Aging program, what kinds of things we explore and take a deeper dive into. We're going to be talking about how can we reframe some habitual beliefs and messages that we receive. But before we do that, we really want to do what we always do, and that is co-create community and have a conversation, have opportunities to have a conversation. We're not just here to lecture to you or talk at you or to be experts. We are all the experts, and we learn from each other. So Kirsten and Dominic are going to help us break into some small group chat rooms. And what I invite you to talk about is what brought you here today, just as Marc and I shared how we got here. What brought you here today? And if you like, an example of internalized ageism. So Dominic, can you help with that process, please? And then we'll meet again in about 15 minutes, and we will take a deeper dive.
Beautiful. Thank you, Evalina. Yes, as Evalina said, we'll be moving right into a breakout room. I'm going to unmute everyone in just a moment, and then I'll send an invite, which a window will pop up on your screen, asking you to join the breakout room, and just click accept. If you don't see that window, you can also find join breakout room on your menu bar at the bottom. In the bottom right-hand corner will say join breakout room. I'll send you messages from time to time letting you know how much time we have left, and we hope you have a wonderful breakout session. Here we are. Yep, looks like we're all back, so I'm going to mute everyone, and I'll unmute you, Evalina. There you are, and we're good to go.
Well, welcome back. And we'd like to just talk a little bit about what the 6 sessions of the online Conscious Aging program are all about. So could you bring up that screenshot, please, Dominic, of the session titles?
Absolutely. Here you are.
Great. So Marc, could you just give us a little brief summary of week 1?
Yes. So session 1 is obviously introductory, but here's where we start to feel the grace in aging and where we start building community. Week 1 is where we get acquainted, and we're starting to co-create our conscious aging group. And as with all 6 of the online sessions, it's not a lecture, but a conversation. That's week 1.
Great. And week 2 is on self-compassion. And this is really foundational to conscious aging work and to living in general. Because as we navigate the unknown and the impermanence of life and change, which is inevitable, we need to extend loving kindness and self-compassion to ourselves. Sometimes as older people, we can feel shame about the changes or about not being able to do things we'd once done. And so that compassion is so important, and we will be doing some exercises, some guided imagery, some conversation about developing a practice of self-compassion. Marc?
And week 3 is often a very weighty week. The topic is forgiveness. And what we learn, one of the things is forgiveness is for you, the forgiver, and nobody else. And this is we use a lot of material from the Fetzer Institute. And we put forgiveness in a context which, there's a little quote here from Frank Ostaseski, which I just want to use. Frank wrote a book called The 5 Invitations. It's a terrific book. We refer to it. I highly recommend it. But in terms of forgiveness, Frank says that it hurts too much to keep others or ourselves out of our hearts. And this is part and parcel of session 3.
Yeah, and then we move into section 4. Now, when we do conscious aging in real time, we often do this over an 8-week period. But for the purposes of our online, we combined a couple of sessions. And week 4, this seemed like a natural combination. One is life review. Often, as we look back in our lives with the eyes of compassion, we find that our perception of things are a little different than the story we'd always held about our lives. We can bring much more compassion, forgiveness, and awareness of some things that maybe we missed earlier on in life. So life review can help us to find what brings meaning and purpose now. And the same with transformative practices. What were those turning points in our lives? What did we glean and learn from that? What supported and sustained us that we can invite into our lives now? Marc?
Okay, and session 5, death makes life possible. And of course, aging and dying, which are inevitable, so many of us fear and deny. It's a real contradiction, fearing and denying what's inevitable. So death, just framing it, this is the title, Death Makes Life Possible, gives us a different angle, and we embrace death as part of life. Session 5 helps us discover what death can teach us about living fully. And 6?
Yeah, which has a lot to do with surrender, accepting life as it is, not comparing it to any other time, not judging ourselves, but merely allowing and accepting what is. And the more that we practice letting go of that which does not serve us at this point, the more we're prepared for dealing with impermanence and for the end of our life and dying. When we let go of old things, it opens the path for new to express itself, and that's where we move into towards a new vision of aging. If we don't buy into the old narrative of aging that we've always been exposed to, what does a new vision look like? Not only for ourselves, what do we want to do moving forward that supports what really matters, but how can we transform that narrative about life for everyone? What can we model for future generations? So there's a lot of juiciness packed into those 6 sessions. And I hope that some of you will choose to join us in exploring all these sessions and all these ideas that we learn from as we talk together about them and learn that we are not in isolation. Yeah.
Dominic, could you bring up the reframing chart screenshot? Okay, I need to just minimize my screen here. There we go. So if we think life peaks in middle age and then it's all downhill from there, that's what we get. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Conscious aging helps us reframe aging. And this chart, which is from the booklet, or it's from the IONS Conscious Aging Workshop booklet, it is a very practical, hands-on example of this transforming the self-limiting thoughts, of reframing aging. So what we would like is, Evalina and I are going to just skim this, but we'd really like you guys to read these concrete examples of changing our attitudes. It doesn't happen overnight, but it won't happen unless we start. And here's a very helpful tool to do that. So I need to click here. So self-limiting beliefs, self-critic. I'm slow, clumsy. We can transform to self-compassion. There are changes, and it's okay. Clinging. I don't want to change how I live my life. Or transforming that to surrender. Actually, my life is impermanent and is always changing. So if you can read through these as we're talking, Evalina.
Yeah, of course, one of the most insidious is the aging stereotypes. Every time we look in the mirror and we're surprised to see, you know, examples of time marching on. So we need to begin to reimagine aging. And part of that is not comparing ourselves with our younger selves, and embracing the strengths and the beauty that we have now. Hopelessness, there can come a sense of despair over some of the challenges that we're confronted with. We can reframe that into what does bring meaning? How can I invite the things that bring me joy and passion into my life? My life isn't over.
Fear in diminishment. I don't like to be around someone who is sick or dying. Yes, because we deny it, we put it off, we don't want to think about it, talk about it. I think we've all experienced some of this, but yet we can have grace in diminishment. I can be present with someone who is sick and dying, but is still alive and present and precious.
Excuse me, Mark. Dominic, can you scroll down because I can't see the bottom half on my screen?
Certainly. There you go.
Thank you.
Holding grudges. I've been wronged and disrespected versus forgiveness. So realizing the power that you're giving up to somebody else by not forgiving them.
Right. Directionless, you know, feeling confused about living and aging. And so the life expanding belief is intentionality. My intention is to age well. How do I go about that? And isolation, this is really pervasive, feeling cut off and alone. And that's one of the reasons that conscious aging involves small group breakouts and sharing, so that we realize our commonality. It's about interconnection. That's a very powerful thing, I think, at this stage in our lives, and necessary as we determine what really matters and that we're not alone. We're a tribe called aging. Let's just pause for a moment so that you can finish reading if you haven't already. We'll just take maybe about 30 seconds to let people finish up with that.
And think about what in this chart resonates with you. There's something in there that resonates with all of us, and it's different for each of us. So what we'd like to do is pull everyone's picture back on, thank you, and try and utilize this platform, the Zoom platform, and have a group discussion, or make your comments, or ask your questions about the Conscious Aging program if you want, amongst the 40 of us. Here we are, all over the place, but right here. And you can raise your hand and speak with us. What do you want to say right now? What resonated with you? What questions do you have? What comments? Feedback? Sometimes when we do this, is at first it's a little like pulling teeth. I recognize some of you out there. No, that's not the hand to raise, Judith, but let's get Judith. She raised her hand. It's
Yes, thank you. This isn't directly relevant to the topic, I think, but it's most on my mind, which is living on the East Coast. is I wish IONS would do more webinars and have more talks available, because I hear great things going on and I can't participate in them. So as long as I'm speaking to some people connected with IONS, I would like to make the suggestion that you do more to include this wide world of people who are members or following your organization.
Hello. Hi.
Okay, Judith, thanks for that. And a good place to start is in 2 weeks in the Conscious Aging program. Last time we ran it, we had people from 5 different countries in 8 different time zones.
Oh, I already took a Conscious Aging program at my temple, and it looks quite similar, so I probably won't.
Oh yeah, Wise Aging.
Yeah.
Wise Aging, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good program. Okay, raise your chat hand, or actually raise your hand. And Dominic, can you get these folks?
Let's
Claire?
see here. So it looks
Hi.
like we have, oh, Claire, you speak. Oh yeah, of course. Claire, take it away.
Hi. I'm in England. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Right, I'm in England. Hi, welcome. I think it's great that we can link up. My biggest issue is because I'm 71, and a year ago I moved from London, where I've always lived, down here to Folkestone, where I didn't know a soul apart from my family and my grandchildren. And everybody assumed, because I'm in my 70s, I was going to retire. Get over yourselves. We're not going to retire because we're having too much fun. I'm a psychotherapist, and as long as I can remember what the hell I'm doing, why should I retire? So that's why I've joined your course, because I really believe that we're getting written off and it's nonsense. So that's me in England. If anybody else out there is in England, please connect with me. Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. And
Yes,
next
hi.
we have Donna with her hand up. Donna, I will unmute you now. There you are.
Oh, hi. I love everything you've presented. I love all the alternative ways of perceiving everything we experience at this time in our lives. The challenge I'm noticing now is that we're speaking about folks living practically since the age of 50 up into their 90s. And what I'm finding is at each decade, there are different life issues and different challenges. Is there acknowledgement of that or is everything just somewhat generically talked about?
In the Conscious Aging workshops?
In your approach to all of this, yeah.
I'll speak to that very quickly, and then maybe if you want to add something, Evalina, but there is no template. There's no template. We have a framework which allows us to co-create each workshop group.
Good.
Okay. And I guess customize the
Yeah.
information. It's basically, let's talk about the elephants in the room. And there's a interconnectedness and commonality for sure, but everybody has their own elephant as well.
Yeah.
I'll stop with that. But. Bobby Williams is waving her hand.
Oh, great. Yes, perfect.
Oh, Bobby.
Here you go,
Hi.
Bobby.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very much interested in the spirituality of aging. I'm a spiritual counselor by training, and I really like the presentation from both of you, Evalina and Marc. And Marc, I was particularly tuned in when you said our intuition is more tangible as we age, and our faculties change, that's a given, but some of them are heightened and others are softened. And I I am so impressed with this program. I've already signed up to be a facilitator, but I can see the benefit of going through the program online prior to being a facilitator, because the sense of community, the lack of isolation, the energetic connection of everyone, and recognizing that the fears are similar, and the empowerment is there as on a group level. So I'm really excited about this. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you. Thanks for that comment.
Thank you, Bobby. And just looking around, if anyone else wished to share, please raise your Zoom hand or real hand. We're looking out at you.
While you are looking for someone, Dominic, I'm just going to jump in and say we had a request from Lloyd to talk a bit about the facilitator training program, and Bobby just mentioned that. Unfortunately, we don't have time today to talk about that, but I do think we should do another webinar about that in the future. It sounds like it's something people have interest in, so keep your ears and eyes open, and we will send out information about that at some point in the future.
How are we doing on time, Evalina? Should we wrap this section up?
Yes, Mark, I think not everyone always wants to make comments in a large group setting like this, and perhaps feels more comfortable in the smaller groups.
Yeah.
And since the beginning of the this webinar, we had a little get to know you, why am I here conversation. Before we go into our closing comments and information, we'd like to just take 10 minutes for you to be able to wrap up what you've gained from this webinar and what has resonated for you. Just sort of a nice little full circle. So we're going to take about 10 minutes or so to do one final small group chat, and then Mark and I will come back with some final comments.
Wonderful. Welcome back, everyone. Looks like we have everyone back, so I'm going to mute everyone and unmute Marc and Evalina. Let's see.
Once again, to thank IONS for creating this possibility and for creating this wonderful program called Conscious Aging. And of course, to our team, Kirsten and Dominic, for holding the space and supporting us so beautifully, and my colleague Marc for being the open-hearted person that he is and inspiring me ongoing in this work. And certainly thanks to all of you for participating today. I hope that you will take this conversation back to your communities and find opportunities amongst your friends and people that you encounter on a day-to-day basis to share about conscious aging, and that there is something else possible. For those of you that might feel inspired to join us October 17th for our 6-week session, I would like to just say that while a webinar is much more casual, you can kind of drift in and out of it, we really are wanting to create a safe, inclusive space of trust and support in the 6-week program. So we do ask for a commitment to be there every week. The first session is kind of required. And while we know that things happen in life, we do ask that you join the program with the intention to really be present and participate to the degree that you're comfortable. We start every session off with an attunement, which is a sort of a meditation or guided imagery, with a singing bowl, and then we move into sharing and presenting information, taking a deeper dive, having small group breakouts. So I'm really excited and hope to see some of you in that conversation. We also provide resources, all kinds of tools, and those are available for people who are participants, extensive resources that you can follow up with. Marc, would you like to add something to that?
Well, just by way, no, actually not. I'm ready to say what I had to say. Were you finished with what you were going to say?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Okay, I want to check. Evalina and I will stick around for an extra 4 or 5 minutes if at the close of the webinar you have some specific questions that you would like to get answered. So, you know, there's a little wiggle room, and we will just hang out to allow for that to happen. Couple of things. The one aspect we're using at this next workshop session is a private Facebook group, open and available only to participants in the workshops, to be another angle or to enable communication amongst the participants. Also, the workshops are not taped, they're not archived. I wanted to just thank A Tribe Called Aging, atribecalledaging.com. And I just wanted to say that the IONS Conscious Aging workshops is the best and the most focused window to reframing aging. This is good stuff. Our hope is that today you've gotten a taste of this good stuff. So thank you for being here. And I think that's all that I want to say right now. Thank you.
Yeah, Kirsten?
I'm just going to share quickly my screen just to have those dates up again. And as you were just saying, we'll stick around for a couple of minutes to answer some questions. I saw that Lloyd had his hand up, but now I think his hand is down. So we'll be here for those of you who want. So thank you so much, Marc and Evalina, for your time and your gifts and sharing yourselves and this work with the world. Thank you to everyone who joined us today for your participation and your curiosity. And we do hope that you will have an opportunity to join us. But if nothing else, we hope this has sparked some food for thought for you to take back into your own communities.